Everyone please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Trustees for the School Town of Speedway. Our meeting for February 13th. We are working from a 12-item agenda. The first item is to approve the minutes of the January 9th, 2018 meeting.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 9th meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Laura. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. The second item is our public hearing regarding additional appropriation in the rainy day fund. I'd like to open that meeting now.
Mr. President, just an outline. The additional appropriation, we are seeking permission to use or to spend up to $400,000 in capital outlays to buy technology, specifically computer equipment, for classrooms grade 3 to 8, 3 to 6, all classrooms, 7 and 8, English language arts, and also to possibly put additional funds in grades 1 and 2, depending on the availability and the cost of the devices, which often change. So at this time, you're actually conducting a public hearing who might have comments either for or against that particular. You've opened the hearing. I've made an introduction.
Are there any comments?
Seeing no comments?
We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Thank you.
Okay. Having conducted the hearing, Mr. President, I will recommend that the board adopt an additional appropriation resolution for certain capital projects outlays for the school town of Speedway. The legal language of the resolution is there. The key amount is we're requesting $400,000 for capital outlays from a rainy day fund, $400,000. Moving forward, the next step will be to take this to the Speedway Town Council, as they are the elected authority, and from there it would then be reviewed by the Department of Local Government and Finance to ensure that there is $400,000 in the rainy day fund. There is $786,000 in the rainy day fund, but we'll turn all of that in. So I'd recommend you adopt this resolution.
Mr. President, I move that we approve or adopt the resolution pertaining to additional appropriation for certain capital outlays in the amount of $400,000 from the rainy day fund, right?
That's it.
Yep. Yeah.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Bill. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Need to have 2 copies signed. If you'll sign on your current title, and after all of you have signed, if you'll send it back to the secretary, well, the secretary you can attest also these are your fellow board members signing.
Thank you. Item number 3, approve participation in the CIESC Indiana Online Academy.
And Speedway Schools is a charter member of the Central Indiana Educational Service Center. The online academy was actually begun begun before 2005. In 2006-07, it was purchased from Wayne Township Schools by the Central Indiana Educational Service Center. And as a member of that, this is what we would suggest as members, the premier online school in the state. We use this for 2 primary purposes. First, we use it for credit recovery. Students who need to complete a class online that perhaps they didn't succeed in to get a credit for graduation, but increasingly we use it both inside the school year and in the summer to pick up courses that we either do not teach at that time or simply are not going to teach. For example, a student could pick up the 6 requisite hours in German through Indiana Online Academy. We don't teach German. We don't have demand for that. But we have had students take even up to Physics 2 at the Online Academy, and we'd have trouble getting more than a student or 2 for Physics 2. So my recommendation, and you have participated, is to renew the agreement. And if you do renew, I've actually already signed it. What I have to do is send a copy of the board minutes saying that you've approved this.
I'll move that we approve our continued participation in the CISC Online Academy.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Debbie. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the participation in the CIESC Indiana Online Academy, please raise your hand. Motion passes 5-0.
I have one question that wasn't a discussion point on that, but just something I'm curious about that I can't recall. Do we have in our handbook that we are still, approving a little bit of, how those classes are handled, GPA-wise, that sort of thing?
I don't have the handbook, but let me tell you what my general understanding is. The grade they earn is the grade that comes in and shows on their transcript, and it's shown at the level. I don't think any of them are at the honors level.
They don't get weights, right?
No way.
Even
I'm
if
looking
it's-
down at the former high school principal.
Apples to apples, yeah. So if we, yes, it's represented for what they take for their class, but they don't get weighted. You can't
So
take a
like,
class and increase your value by taking a class online.
yeah, and even like, at least I remember, like, there were a couple options when my kids were here that, like the Physics 2 class, which would probably have been a type of class, but because if it was online, it would not have been, yeah, okay. And that's in the handbook? it-
I don't know, but we will
it
check that.
just
I
would-
can tell you what our practice is,
Yeah.
but I think if you take Physics 2, you'd get an A, and that'd be a 4-point A. It wouldn't
Yeah.
be a 5-point A. That would come with Physics honors, which actually brings up one of the issues. Because technically, if you're a student with a high GPA, anytime you take a class that only gives you 4 points, you can actually reduce your total GPA. And I haven't figured that out yet. Of course, well, I do have a solution, but I won't go into that.
Part of, yeah,
But perhaps it is something to look at. But right now, it comes in, an A comes in as 4 points, no
Yeah.
matter what the course is. And it's a conundrum I haven't figured out in a long time. Yes.
Thank you. Item number 4, present amendment to the cellular tower licensing agreement.
This is an amendment. We have 2 cellular towers licensed, operated by Crown Castle. Each of those 2 towers have 2 antennas on them. This happens to be the original site set up in 1997 by AT&T. It's known as 84493, which I would commonly call the East Tower, tower closest to the building. Okay. Co-located on the AT&T site was another antenna with Verizon. Okay. So you have this unique arrangement. You have the company Crown Castle that is the administrator of the license for the tower. They, in fact, then license or lease and to companies who want to locate antennas. So essentially, AT&T, which owns Crown Castle, rent has an antenna up there. Verizon has an antenna. Both pay us for those. On the other side, we have a West Tower, which actually has Sprint and T-Mobile on it. On the west side, about 3 years ago, they came to us and said, we'd like to, in a sense, pay you to increase the length of those licenses. We're willing to commit to 5 years at a time and look for up to 5 renewals. We went through that in great detail 3 years ago. We, in fact, did that on the West Tower. Now, each 5-year point, when you get a point, the license fee increases 3%. So the income generally increases. And Crown Castle also manages that tower. They are now saying, we're very happy with the arrangement. Would you consider making the same long-term kind of a commitment, 5-year commitments and up to 5 commitments? What that does is gives us some form of guaranteed income. We essentially have guaranteed income through about 2024 on one, and this would be through 2029. And given that these things have operated for 21 years, there's a good chance they're going to meet their 2024, 2049. Why would a company do this? You don't see cell towers going up in urban areas. They're there. They have the equipment. Now, having said that, all of these agreements start as this until council begins to work with them. The original counsel for Speedway is Brad Fusen, one person that the board has met, who has written these agreements throughout the entire time. The agreement you have in front of you is essentially what the agreement will be. But there will be some small, minor changes in the language. Mostly, I would tell you, to our advantage, to make sure that we have things covered. So what I'm recommending today is that you authorize your longtime counsel from Krieg DeVault, Brad Fusen in this area, to negotiate on your behalf as an agent and come to a firm agreement, understanding that that final agreement will be brought to you. But it would be inappropriate for us to authorize him to do that and then attempt to. This is not a rush by any means. They started talking about this with us in August. We're now at this point. It would not surprise me if we didn't get somewhere until this summer. I'd like to get somewhere before June 30th because that's when the rent goes up. So we want as a part of this agreement, they will also on the front end give a lump sum of funds to pay for the legal fees that come to this. So my recommendation, authorize Brad Fusen to negotiate on your behalf and finalize agreement with Crown Castle as he has done in the past.
Laura?
I move that we authorize Brad Fusen to negotiate our agreement and negotiate on our behalf and come to an agreement about the cell tower issue.
Okay, thank you, Laura.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? No? Okay. All those in favor of authorizing Brad Fusen from Krieg DeVault to negotiate on our behalf an agreement with Crown Castle, please raise your hand. Okay. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Maybe the best comment an attorney ever made to me was, "Ken, always remember you're selling air."
Okay, item number 5, approve advertisement for proposals to provide food service management.
Speedway has used food service management since its expansion into elementary lunch program. I believe it was about 1997. And every 5 years, we essentially request proposals from food management companies to operate our food service management or to operate in partnership with us. Actually, you're asking for a 1-year contract with up to 5 renewals. So this year, we're soliciting proposals to come to manage these services. In general, my experience is there are about 3 companies that do this: Aramark, Chartwell's, Sodexo. I might be surprised, but those would be 3 reputable companies who may or may not have an interest in this. But I'm asking you to authorize advertisement for proposals.
Laura?
I move that we authorize advertisement for proposals to provide food service management.
Thank you, Laura.
I'll second.
Thank you, Debbie. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving authorizing advertisement for proposals to provide food service management, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item number 6, approve advertisement for proposals to provide latchkey care.
This one comes up a little more frequently. State law requires every school corporation to offer a latchkey program. We have always sought management services to run those latchkey programs, and we are at 3 years with our current provider, AYS, who has been our provider for many years before that. We will see, I think probably in the past 2 entities, AYS at your school and the YMCA has at times expressed interest, so I'm recommending that you authorize that we request proposals or from bidders to provide those services.
I'll make a motion to approve the advertisement for proposals to provide latchkey care.
Thank you, Debbie.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Bill. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion items? Thank you. All those in favor of approving the authorization for proposals to provide latchkey care, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item number 7, acknowledgement of grants received.
And the recommendation, Mr. President, as you look at your board and by consensus, accept $165,697.19.
I think we can do it.
Thank you.
I'm just going to make one comment. If you look at the second item, the Coca-Cola income received, we've had a long-term relationship with them, but you can see what kind of income that's dropping to. Bottom line is kids are not drinking. It's just probably great for kids, even though you can't serve anything. But it's not doing anything for that particular fund. That fund has funded a lot of things over time, T-shirts for elementary bowls and just a lot of things for the good of the school and the kids, but it's not going up. But when you put in reverse osmosis, bottle filling, drinking fountain problems, or not problems, fillers, selling Dasani becomes a problem. So that's just the reality. That revenue source is leaving us.
Item number 8, approve request for temporary disability leave of absence.
And Ms. Kelly Hosey, kindergarten teacher at Fisher Elementary, is requesting a disability leave of absence to begin on or about March 2nd, with her anticipated due date March 5th. Before the end of the year, she'll likely be cleared to come back to work, but she is asking that she also then have a maternity leave from the point she's returned and intends to come back next school year. So essentially what Kelly's asking for here is a disability leave of absence until she is eligible to return, and then a maternity leave of absence. That's an unpaid leave of absence through the end of the school year. I'd recommend you approve that.
Board's pleasure. Laura?
I move that we approve the temporary disability leave of absence as presented.
Thank you, Laura.
And I'll second it.
Thank you, Bill. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? It's been moved and seconded to approve the request for temporary disability leave of absence. Please raise your hand if you support it. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item number 9, resignations.
I have a lengthy list this evening, but that's not atypical for February, although it is atypical that we would have this many teachers and other certified staff retiring. Perhaps one of you have added this up, but we don't give in retirement incentives because we value our people who are here. But Miss Nancy Harrison, absolutely an icon, 50 years. 50 years of service in public education. Her letter makes you closely thereafter, 47 years in public education, all here at Speedway, Barbara Whitus. Mary Ann Bailey, and I'm in the 30 range, from Newby Elementary School. Andy Richmond, 30 years from Fisher Elementary School. Ellen Barnes, over 20 years. She's a coach, but spent a great deal of time teacher at Wheeler and a coach at Newby and Fisher. And Elena Blitzel, who has been with us 9 years, and although that's not an official Speedway retirement, she also had a long career in parochial education before joining us, and we're going to make sure she's right there with everybody else at the Lions Club and Flex and such. And then finally, a name that you all will recognize in Speedway, Jeff Foxworthy has made the decision to retire from our custodial staff after many years. And it'll be a little loss not coming in the morning, because he's generally the first guy I see in the morning, and quite often the guy I see on the weekends checking buildings and moving snow. So I would recommend you accept all of those resignations as submitted for the purpose of retirement.
I'll make a motion that we accept the resignations of Barb Whitus, Nancy Harrison, Marianne Bailey, Andrew Richmond, Lane Hoblitzel, Ellen Barnes, and Jeff Foxworthy for the purpose of retirement.
I'll second.
Thank you, Debbie. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you for their service.
Just a comment, well, there were some really nice retirement letters from that group.
Very nice.
People genuinely appreciative of the kids they work with, the teachers they work with, and the administrators they work with.
There have been some tears shed.
Item number 10, employment recommendations.
I'd like to recommend Ms. LaTorre Davies to fill a part-time position in the Speedway cafeteria. And ladies and gentlemen, it's time to start filling extracurricular positions for next school year. These are for next school year. Mr. Dean Haviland, who is a Speedway High School graduate and also has a Bachelor of Science or Sports Administration from Ball State. He currently is the Vice President of Game Operations for the Indiana Pacers, and we're recommending him as a head high school boys soccer coach. And interestingly enough, I've learned that this is a legacy. His father was the first boys soccer coach in Speedway, so if you approve, he becomes a legacy. And another name we know well from the athletic programs, Mr. Robert Oath, organizational leadership from Purdue, is his bachelor's, also Speedway High School, and as the high school assistant boys soccer coach. I recommend you make these, employ these people in these roles.
I'll make a motion that we employ LaTorre Davies in our cafeteria, Mr. Dean Haviland as the boys varsity soccer coach, and Mr. Robert Oath as the assistant boys varsity soccer coach.
Thank you.
And I'll second that.
Bill, thank you very much. Any questions? It's been moved and seconded that we approve the employment of Ms. LaTorre Davies, Mr. Dean Haviland, and Mr. Robert Oath. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Item passes 5-0. Item 11, recognition of visitors.
We're not doing that as an item.
Yeah, that's a give me what you got so I can turn it over and get it right. Can I take it?
I'll explain to you.
Okay.
Any other items?
No other items, I apologize.
Sorry, yeah.
And we will adjourn to approve claims.